Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I am George. We're all George. So, Bitcoin is dumping once again. Why does Bitcoin keep on dumping? Why is it not stopping? Well, today I'm going to try to explain it. Multiple reasons why I believe this is happening. And of course, tell you guys what we should do about it. And go over a few alts that have also dumped and are not misses. Well, ones that are oversold. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's talk about all these things and more. Let's do it. Welcome, guys. Good morning. Unfortunately, we're waking up to more weakness. Last night, when I was streaming, it seemed like we stabled out around 40,000. And unfortunately, we wake up this morning and we see Bitcoin down further. 38.8, this magical 38 mark that a lot of people have been talking about. Well, it's here. But why is it here? Why is Bitcoin dumping more? Why do we see this continuous weakness ever since the ETFs were introduced? Well, there's a couple things I've found. Going to try to explain it, and it makes a whole lot of sense. I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's multiple things added together. That is why we're seeing it, especially when, and I've been saying this for a while, that the big boys like BlackRock and Fidelity keep on adding. Well, if they keep on adding, why are we still going down? Well, here's the thing. Number one, as for ETFs, yes, these big boys are adding. BlackRock has over 1.4 billion of Bitcoin in their ETF. Fidelity also has over 1.4 billion, and Bitwise and ARK both hold about $500 million. Okay, you add it all together, it's a lot. Okay, they're buying a lot. But what's also happening is Grayscale is selling a lot. In fact, yesterday they sold 640 million worth of Bitcoin from their fund. And it seems like that's escalating. It seems like every single day there's more and more flows outwards from Grayscale. Right now, if you look at a total flow 7-day, you'll see that Grayscale sold approximately 3.5 billion of Bitcoin from the ETF. Okay, and they have 21.5 billion left to go. But the good thing is, if you look at the others, the 11 others, they're eating it up. Right, so if you add Fidelity and BlackRock and Bitwise and ARK, Invesco and everything, it's a net positive, meaning there's still more Bitcoin going into these ETFs than coming out, despite Grayscale selling so much. But why is Grayscale selling so much, right? There's a number of reasons for that. A lot of insiders that's been holding for years upon years upon years upon years, they may want to cash out because finally they have an opportunity to do so. But there's also one in particular that's been selling more than everyone else. And I hate to say it, the ghost of SBF is back, sort of. The new FTX, okay? They're going through bankruptcy procedure and trying to recover and trying to relaunch. I don't know what happened there, if they are truly trying to relaunch, but supposedly they got all the money back, right? And here's one way of getting their money back: by selling and dumping their Grayscale shares. So they sold approximately $1 billion worth of Bitcoin from Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF. Right, so out of the 3.4 billion that has been sold, well, at least 1 billion of that is from FTX alone. Okay, and of course they had to wait until Grayscale converted their trust into ETF in order to do so, because before, if you think about it, trust was actually pretty good. Grayscale's trust just allows Bitcoin to come in, but never allows Bitcoin to come out. Right, but now it goes both ways. But we can't blame Grayscale, because Grayscale was the one that allowed, that fought the SEC and won and allowed ETFs to even come to be, right? So can't fault Grayscale for that. They can't really control whether or not FTX decides to sell $1 billion. And hopefully they don't have any more to sell, right? But there are still a lot of outflows. But right now, the good thing is the other ETFs are eating it up. So that's the thing. Again, I've been saying this for a while, right? These big boys are not going to stop eating it up. They're replenishing their funds right now, or not replenishing, they're filling up their newly created funds. And they're not going to stop until those funds are filled with tens of billions, hundreds of billions worth of Bitcoin, just like Grayscale, right? Grayscale still has 21.5 billion. It's just a matter of time before you see BlackRock's have 21 billion, and then Fidelity's has 21 billion. And then not too long after that, you go see it with 50 billion or 100 billion worth of Bitcoin in there. It's not going to stop. And this is just within their fund. That does not mean that these guys can't be holding Bitcoin in other wallets too that they control, that they're loading up on, right? We just don't know. But we know with the scarcity of Bitcoin getting more scarce, there's just not that much to go around. Now, I've covered something like this before about Grayscale dumping and FTX dumping. Well, FTX is kind of new. But there's something else that I mentioned before that I decided to take a closer look at. And it's just as damning, I would say. And you could argue maybe this has more effect than even Grayscale. And that is the miners. So I decided to load up. I got to remove my camera here. I decided to load up CryptoQuant and looked at the miner outflows for all the miners. And you could see since ETF approval, right, there's a lot of these big green bars, and these are outflows, okay? Before, you would have little outflows. Now you're having massive outflows, like the one that happened right here a few days ago. 40,475 Bitcoins being sold. That's approximately $1.5 billion, right? So when you have a weak market, you know, Bitcoin was hovering around 41,000, and then you have 1.5 billion being sold. Of course, that's going to make a big impact and drop Bitcoin below 40,000 to 30s, you know, and that's where we are, right? So the miners seem like they're still selling. And I've covered this before. I said miners, it's not like the miners are like FTX and just dumping because they want to get out. It's because they're trying to prepare for the halving event, right? Which is just coming up in basically like 3 months, less than 3 months. They're trying to prepare. They need that money to continue to operate, to buy more infrastructure, to buy more equipment, right? They want to stay competitive in this space because it's not just one miner. There's a dozen miners, and they're competing with pools too. So everyone is trying to load up, I believe, on new equipment, and they need money for that. But it's unfortunate that they're doing it now, right? They probably didn't know that Grayscale and FTX were also selling, and then on top of that, they're selling. Of course, that's a lot of selling. Even with all the buying, can't overcome all the selling, right? So waiting for this to stop as well. So when the miners realize, okay, we sold enough, we have impacted the price way too much, let's stop, that's when Bitcoin can recover, I believe. There's just too much selling right now, okay? But here's the good news. Here's the good news. The halving event is 3 months away, right? And these big boys that I mentioned, I mean, it's not like we really want them to buy up all the Bitcoin there is, but they are buying. They are buying by a lot, by way more, at a much higher rate than we are as retail investors. Let's just put it that way, okay? Over 100,000 Bitcoins accumulated in just 7 days, just 1 week. What about a second week? Another 100,000. Third week, 100,000. Fourth week, 100,000. I mean, you get my picture, right? So these big boys continue to buy up despite some selling. Eventually, that's going to catch up, right? Again, not to say this is good long term. We don't want these big boys to be each holding a million plus Bitcoin. That just gives them way too much control, right? That's why we need to take advantage while we still can and grab some while things are still cheap. That's why when things are down, you think of it as a buying opportunity, a gift. You could buy Bitcoin and crypto at a discount, a steep discount. That's the best way to think about it. So we have these big boys still buying. We have, let's say, lesser big boys like whales that are still buying. For example, someone, right, just transferred $100 million, okay, into Binance. What do you think they're going to do with that money? It's not like they're converting it to cash. They already have a USDT. So they're going to be buying. So you have the big institutions that will continue to load up. You have the whales that are now coming back and realizing, well, this is a pretty good buying opportunity, right? And, of course, we got the big halving event that's coming up in 3 months and other catalysts that's coming later this year, just within months, not years, months, right? Because all these things, that's why we need to hold strong. We need to do what these guys are doing. We need to continue to ignore the FUD, accumulate, hodl, and that is the game plan. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing changes. When Bitcoin was at 16,000, when it was at 20,000, when it was at 26,000, when it was at 30,000, 40,000, the game plan is the same, right? Hodl and accumulate. But if you're looking at some of the technicals, like RSI, I mentioned yesterday, RSI was very, very oversold with the 1 hour and the 4 hour. Daily is starting to get very oversold. I mean, that's exactly what this is showing right here. Plan B is saying, well, we're consolidating a little bit, maybe dumping a little bit, but the next jump will put us past $60,000, right? I don't know, but you know, it's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to jump up 50% immediately, but as we get closer and closer to having it, and as we surpass it, and these entities stop selling, we're definitely going to see the price come up very quickly. Just like in the opposite direction, when we were hovering in the 20s and 30s, we came up to the 40s really quickly, right? We could certainly see a climb back up to 49,000 really quickly and surpass into the 50s as we get closer to having that. There's no doubt about it. And if you're looking at, you know, again, what usually happens, okay, at a halving event, in case you're new and you don't know what a halving event is, it's when Bitcoin's inflation rate gets cut in half. Just look at these boxes, okay? Look at the dotted lines. That's when the halving event occurs. And you'll see that what's the commonality with all these previous cycles, with the dotted lines, with the chart moving. You'll see the commonality is every time afterwards, Bitcoin starts going upwards in a big way. Will it change this time? No. Will it be 100% identical? No. But if I was a betting man and I was using this as my guide, I would say, yeah, this is a good time to be loading up before the next halving event, because most likely Bitcoin's going to end up where that red triangle is, and that's pointing somewhere around 300, 200,000 for Bitcoin by the end of 2025, right? That's where it will end up. That's why we hold them, right? So don't be discouraged, my friends. I know it sucks. You wake up, you check your portfolio, you're down another 5% or 7% or 10%. It does suck, but most of you guys have lived through 2022. If you lived through 2022 and 2023, you know that this is nothing, okay? You've lived through much worse. You've been hardened. Your hands are full of diamond crust, okay? This is nothing. The game plan is still the same, HODL and DCA. Now, besides Bitcoin, there are, of course, a lot of other alts out there. They're bargains. Yesterday, last night, I covered a few of my favorites like Solana, Avalanche, and Cardano. Today, let's cover a few more because alts are down. They're taking a beating, right? But this is when you want to pounce on them and accumulate more because you're getting them for quite cheap. Starting out with Cosmos. Cosmos has always been one of my favorites. They have not been moving as much as others, but I still think they're going to do very well this cycle. Cosmos is a layer 0, which employs IBC, inter-blockchain communication. So basically all the chains within it, they're all called dApp chains, all the chains within Cosmos, they have the ability to talk to each other if they want to. Not all of them turn on IBC, but theoretically, all these can talk to each other. Okay. And they used to show BSC in here. And then they remove it because probably Binance told them to remove it. But even BSC can turn on IBC if they wanted to. But they choose not to. But yeah, the point is you could see all these are talking to each other because of IBC. So there's a big advantage there. It's a huge interoperable ecosystem or cosmos of chains, right? Unfortunately, though, one weakness to Cosmos is that their inflation is quite high. And they recently had a proposal to decrease inflation to 0, which, of course, everyone turned down because all the validators, they want to continue to earn some kind of rewards. I don't know why they went from like very high to 0. They could have done something in between. So that's probably the next thing. But I do think once they reduce the inflation rate, it'll definitely help Cosmos in a big way. Because right now, I think what's holding it back is the inflation. They inflate too much. But eventually, they're going to get that under control. But, you know, like I said, those dApp chains, they're getting really, really hot. A ton of volume. DYDX, which is a DEX, I didn't even know this. They're beating Uniswap in daily trading already. They were on Ethereum. They decided to launch a chain on Cosmos because, you know, for obvious reasons, they want to save on fees and congestion and so forth, right? But DXDY is doing very well. Osmosis, another DEX, their major DEX, is surging as well. 1 billion in monthly volume, right? And of course, you have other newcomers like Say, Celestia, that both have been very, very hot in 2023 and 2024. And of course, you have the hottest one of them all, Injective, which is also out of Cosmos, right? These are all great buys, I believe, especially when they're down, because I think they're going to have fantastic years this year. But speaking of Injective, is another one. Injective, the hottest, besides Bonk, they're the second highest gains for a chain or any project in 2023. Anyway, so they're rolling out their new Volon upgrade, which will increase their burning and make things even faster. And that includes this new gas compression, which now makes transactions on Injective among the cheapest in the space. In fact, even more cheap than Solana. So they were already cheap, but they made themselves even cheaper. So basically now, if you conduct anything, any kind of transaction on Injective, it's near 0. You just don't have to worry about paying gas anymore. That's the bottom line. It's not at 0, but it's near 0. It's very close to 0, so that helps, right? And of course, their utility is going up. Number of users, addresses, up tremendously. You could just see just like moonshotted. So there's a lot of good stuff happening, and Injective, ahead of their new Volon upgrade, they're also staking another 50 million to take it out of supply, right? So Injective is definitely one I think will do well this year among the many other dApp chains out of Cosmos. And Cosmos itself, I think, will do well this year. So pay attention to them. All right, that is pretty much it. Let's do some Q&A. I just realized I was muted. So I made some jokes, but it's okay. They weren't really good. But yeah. Let's see. I was talking about the bounce. Talking about Litecoin, cock. Let's see. I am way in agreement with my portfolio. Alberto, congratulations. If you've been DCAing throughout the bear market, throughout crypto winter, you're still fine. Like, you're still way up. There's no reason to be complaining, right? I know compared to when we were at 49,000 till now, yes, your portfolio is down. But if you compare it to where it was 6 months ago, a year ago, you're still way up had you been DCAing all along. DCA never fails unless you're just like picking a really bad rug project. In those cases, yes, it fails. But when it comes to Bitcoin, no, never fails. All right, let's see here. What's my max pain point estimation? I think we're pretty close. The chart is pretty oversold. I mean, if you look at everything, 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, very oversold. But let's just, for example, the dumping continues, the miners dump more, or FTX dumps more, and everyone else is dumping more. I would say max pain would probably be around there, that red line, which I drew before. We had a hard time breaking through this, but once we did, we shot up to the 40,000 really quickly, but that would be about 36.8. If we had more pain to go, I would say that is where we end up. And we bounce off of there. I would like to see that not happen, but I would say, yeah, if we had max pain, that would be probably the next logical step. Roy, AVAX Foundation put up a tweet mentioning they're buying Kimball and Cock. They are quite up today. What are your thoughts? Did they put a new one? They're up today. Are you sure they're up? I didn't even check. Let's see. I don't think Cock is up at all. Kimball's up. Okay, so we got something there. But AVAX did say before, Roy, they said that they were going to start buying memes. So that's why, like, the AVAX memes did, when they fell down, they pumped back up again. If they start buying, that'd be great. I mean, they're basically, just like all these foundations are starting to realize that a lot of these memes are not rugs, right? As long as they vet them and make sure that they know the teams are doxed, they're not going to be rugs, and they support them, well, they're just supporting their ecosystem, just like they're supporting any dApp that's on board of their chain, right? That's what it comes down to. I don't think they're going to put like vast amounts of their, funds, treasury funds into them, but a little bit to show support, nothing wrong with that. Rumor has it you sold your Kulo. Is that true? No. I don't know who would be spreading that rumor. No, I have not. I have a ton of it. Let's see. Bookmap shows bottom at 38K. Okay, I don't even know what Bookmap is, but sure. Sure, sounds good. Osmosis has launched its very first meme coin. Yeah, it seems like that's the new thing. Like every chain, even the unpopular ones, or not, let's just say not popular, but let's just say they're still a little bit too small to be launching their own meme. Maybe they'll do well in the coming market, but right now launching a meme on a mid cap or small cap L1 isn't really doing it. You need to launch on the major chains. Is Kulo a good buy right now? I would say if it's down, yes. Um, like I said, why I like Kulo, because I know the founder. I think he's a good guy. He's part of the IFC. He's doxed. It's a fair launch. And they have the unofficial support of Polygon, of QuickSwap. Hopefully Sandeep comes around. So they seem like they have a chance to make it, right? And they have some utility too. Some bots that are already being developed. But as for meme goes, those are the criteria. How else do you go judge a meme? Besides if it, shoots up to the moon, right? But a lot of them shoot up to the moon and then dumb right back down because they're a rug or something. In this case, I just don't think they are. Do I have Cock and Kulo? Yes. Solana got partnership with GoBit hedge fund. I don't know about that GotBit hedge fund. They got involved with a lot of coins that did not go up. So I think they're just throwing money in a lot of stuff. Have you checked Myra? A low cap with great potential. I have looked at Myra. It was doing well. It's just a copy of Myro, but it's a girl dog, which, I thought it could do well, but obviously right now that's not the case. It's dumping. Do you still believe in XMR? You know what? I never really believed in them. I think it's great if you want to use them, but Monero is being delisted from all exchanges left and right. Governments do not like Monero or any privacy coin for that matter because they can't track the transactions. So for that reason, that's why I usually don't touch privacy coins. Kyle, Karate Combat. Karate has been doing really well. Man, why did that just unchange? Okay. Yeah, Karate's up to 25 million. That's pretty good. Obviously, the IFC, the Influencer Fight Club, that's happening next month. So still trying to get that solidified in terms of venue and stuff, but that's with Karate Combat, their rules, their stage, their gear and everything, right? And it's pretty cool because you could use their app to bet on the fighters and you use karate tokens to do so. And you can't really lose either. It's basically you win or you don't win. You don't really lose. Should I take a loan to DCA more? No, you should never take a loan. Okay, if you're taking a loan to buy crypto, that means you can't afford it. And the number one rule when it comes to investing is never invest more than what you can afford to lose. So if you don't have it and you're taking a loan, that is more than you can afford to lose, right? So don't ever do that. Nerf. One thing that taught me so much about tokens is making and listing creation creating LPs. I highly recommend for folks that like to trade. Really shows what's behind the curtain. That is true. I'm not a big LP guy, but I know that when you're creating creating a token is easy. Managing the liquidity pool on the dexes, that's tough because you got to manage both sides, right? It's a pair, so not only you have to manage the token side, but also whatever the pair is, it's ETH or Sol or Poly or whatever it may be. And then making sure you have enough liquidity so the price impact isn't too big. I mean, there's like a whole art form to it. So creating a token is easy, but maintaining it, that's the tough part. But I agree with you. And I'm not an expert in that, but I know some of the things that you have to do. And you can also make good money by staking within those liquidity pools, right? You get pretty high, let's say you're not getting yield, but you're getting transaction fees. You're collecting a portion of that from the DEX, right? And some of that is how much fees is determined by the project. It's part of their smart contract and so forth. But yeah, there's a lot to it. This is all part of DeFi that most people never, ever touch. Hat says, I understand why miners are taking profits. I don't get why Grayscale's selling off. Well, it may not be Grayscale's fault. They have no control over the sell-off because you have like someone like a FTX that dumped $1 billion of the Bitcoin, right? And there's a lot of other insiders that hold Grayscale, that held Grayscale Trust before GBDC, and they were never able to sell, and now they're taking an opportunity to sell. It's just that it's the absolute worst time to be selling, right? This was plugged up. If they weren't selling like 600 million per day, I mean, the net flow in would be so vast, right? But it seems like right now they're selling off like 500, 600 million per day, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down. If that slows down, right, and the miner stops selling, that's when we just recover up, bounce up real quick. It's just there's so much selling pressure right now. But here's the good news. Even with all that selling pressure, like tons of selling pressure, I mean, we're still holding where we are, right? We haven't dumped back down to zero, like what a lot of bears would say. Where do you see ETH going in 3 to 6 months? Well, after the halving event, I expect the market to pick up. We'll be in much better shape. I think the next 3 to 6 months, ETH could climb up above $3,000. Man, that's probably conservative. Maybe even $3,500. Are there dips after halving? Yes, of course. There's tons of dips. Tons of dips. 20, 25, 30% dips on the way up. And that's never going to change. In fact, that's probably going to escalate even more. Derek Kong, good morning, my man. There's no way that portfolio is in the green. What portfolio? Yeah, someone keeps DMing me. Hold on. What's the point of having Coinbase as a clearinghouse? I don't know. There's a lot of point to it. Regulations, safety, security, separation. I mean, like there's a lot. You don't want the funds to be controlling the crypto themselves, right? I mean, there's yeah. I'm not an expert in it, but I'm sure you could Google it. There's a lot of reasons why. What is the best crypto bot? I don't know. I don't use crypto bots at all. I don't think you need to. Should I be grabbing Solana or Chainlink? You should be grabbing both. There's no reason why you can't grab both. You know, whenever you have, like a choice like that, like you're like, they're both good. You could split it 50. Are you looking at AI coins like LimeWire? I don't think LimeWire has anything to do with AI. It's a torrent project. I don't know what that has to do with AI. That's not AI at all. But to answer your question, am I looking at AI projects? I know there's a few, but they're not, they're not that far along. They're incorporating AI within what they're doing, but they're not like, it's not like a really useful assistant, let's for example. Hey, I'm 16 and I get about 400 a week. I'm a DCAing the Cash App, which I know isn't great, but I'm thinking about getting Fidelity. What's your advice? Well, congratulations, first of all. You're starting a DCA at the age of 16. You're going to be a very, very wealthy person by the time you hit your mid 20s. So congratulations. I mean, there's no reason why you can't. Fidelity is fine, but I don't know if they allow you to cash out from Fidelity. I don't think they allow you to cash out, but if you plan on holding for a long time in Fidelity, I guess that's okay. But you could also use Robinhood. You could use Coinbase, in the US, Gemini. There's a lot of options. And you should learn about wallets. It's not hard at all. Download a Trust Wallet. It's free. Play around with it. Transfers a little crypto in there. Transfer a little out. Make sure you write down your recovery phrase. Download MetaMask. It's free too. Learn about wallets. It's really simple. Once you know how to use a wallet, you know how to use all the wallets. And you can recover your crypto from one wallet to another just by importing, right? You can import your Trust Wallet into MetaMask, vice versa, and all these other ones, Trezor, Ledger. I mean, you can import wallets all day long. I think most people don't realize that. Most people think, oh, once you have a wallet, let's say in Trust, you're stuck there and then you have to get a different wallet. No, you can import that wallet into any other wallet that supports the same kind of recovery system, which is basically all of them. So I would say, yeah, get familiar with wallets. But congratulations for DCing at such a young age. Is Aptos a good buy? It's not a bad buy, let's just say. I think they're promising. I'm not the most bullish guy on Aptos, but they have potential. Let's just put it that way. I have no idea who launched this. First Digital USD. It's already at 2.6 billion. I've never heard that before. I don't know where that came from. Should I buy, Saab is asking, should I buy 1K of Bitcoin now? I don't know if you should or not. What's the 2025 return I would get? I should wait or buy now? I can't tell you 100%. And I can't tell you or advise you if you should buy now. But I will say this, Bitcoin is down significantly from even a month ago, right? So if you're looking for a good entry point, it's not a bad time. As for 2025 return, a lot of speculation on how high Bitcoin will go, but I think it'll end up being around anywhere from 150 to 250. That's where I'm thinking. So you do the math. Tony said, I don't think people understand how Grayscale Trust worked and why they couldn't sell. Yeah, it took me a while to kind of understand that too. Um, that's why there was such a steep, um, negative premium for so long. But anyways, that's the past, but now it's the future. Unfortunately, they are able to sell. All these ETF funds are able to sell, but they're accumulating right now. They're not selling besides Grayscale. Every single one is just accumulating more and more and more. Where do you think ADA will end up during the bull run? ADA's ADA. It's slow and it's boring, but it'll continue to trend up. Like it always does every single cycle. That never changes. Never changes for ADA. That's why it's in the top 10. What about TokenFi sys project of Floki? It's kind of boring if you ask me. Floki never should have come out with another project to begin with. That just shows they're kind of like not focused on Floki anymore. Or they've given up, realizing that Floki just can't compete with the newer memes. So TokenFi just allows you to create tokens. So kind of boring. I don't know. Would you spend $450 on a Solana phone or buy $450 for the Sol? Thoughts? On Sol for sure. Especially if you have to wait for that phone for 2 years. Not worth it. Not worth it at all. I would just buy the Sol. I believe the CME gap is closed already. Yesterday, I covered that. It hit 40, like 39.5 was a gap or something. So we did close that. Yeah, we did. What do you think about Optimus or Arbitrum? I think they're going to be powerhouses of this cycle. L2s are only getting stronger. The new, was it Dekun upgrade for ETH is coming, and that actually makes them even stronger. It helps the L2. So I think they'll be powerhouses this cycle. I like them a lot. $500 in Sol or BTC right now. Again, just split it up. I like both. Split it up. You need to check Toshi quickly. It's a face of base. I'm going to say I'm not a big fan of base chain. Because you can't invest in it. There's no coin, right? With everything else, it's a coin. So at least you can invest in it. If you believe in it with base, you really can't. So... Will Injective do a 50x from its current price this bull run? I don't know if it could do a 50x from current price. Maybe like a 20x or 10x. I mean, 50x is a lot. Raymond, that might be a little too much. After using Solana, do you ever want to go back to ETH? I don't know. I mean, from my experience with the ETH is congestion and fees. I think most people's experience with ETH is that, right? Whether it's trading, whether it's minting NFTs, whether it's buying NFTs, it's just high fees. People have just gotten used to that, but now people are starting to get used to the fact that you don't actually need to just use ETH, right? Although it's still a dominant powerhouse, it's not going to go away anytime soon. But even for stablecoin transfers, right? There's plenty of options. You want to transfer USDT? You could do it on Solana. You could do it on BSC. You could do it on many chains that are just as quick, and everyone's supporting them. I mean, much quicker and much cheaper, but widely supported among all the the sexes and the wallets and dexes. I mean, it's like, you know, there's so many options now. People are speculating Toshi will be a base coin. No, it won't be. Coinbase will never have a coin. You could quote that. Coinbase will never have a coin. They don't want more trouble with the SEC. All right, guys. Let's conclude. Overall, this is what it's going to look like by the end of this cycle. All right, so this is the most important thing to focus on. Where we will end up by the end of this cycle. Not right now. During all previous cycles, there has been dips, drops, manipulations, volatility. We have seen it all. But what's more important is where Bitcoin will end up, right? And I believe this is pretty accurate. Right now we have FTX selling, we have Grayscale selling, we have the miners selling. A lot of selling pressure. But we know eventually this will all stop. Demand is going to outweigh the selling, and price will go up, right? So don't be discouraged, guys. I know it sucks, but you have seen this. You have lived through 2022 and 2023. This is nothing. We will get through this together. So smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tonight. Same time as always, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one. Take care.